welcome to Community Connections with Children's Services Council of St. Lucie County. I am just one of your hosts, Sean Boyle, and with me is
Ashley Mock.
And welcome to the half-hour radio program that airs every Sunday on 104.5 The Flame at 10 a.m., our great partner. And I say that because right now we are in the WLX St. Lucie Public Schools studio, because once a month, this little radio program that airs every Sunday on 104.5 The Flame also becomes a TV show thanks to the wonderful partnership with St. Lucie Public Schools. And you can find this show, if you're a radio listener and you're wondering what we look like, you can find this show on your major cable providers, but you can also, and this is how I reference or access all the great programming on WLX TV, I go to YouTube, I look up WLX St. Lucie, you can see all the broadcasts that they do, including this show, of which some of those videos go back, believe it or not, Ashley, 9 years.
A long time.
You are still in high school.
Vintage. They're vintage episodes of this show.
Well, welcome to the show that's all about connecting you, the listener and viewer, to resources and things that are available in our great community we call St. Lucie County. Now, we at the Children's Services Council, not media professionals.
No.
I think we established that already. But what we do at the Children's Services Council is 5 things for our community. And those 5 things are: 1, making sure every baby is a healthy baby; 2, stopping child abuse before it happens; 3, keeping kids off the streets. Foreshadowing, we're going to talk a lot about that topic.
Yeah.
4, keeping kids in school. And 5, keeping kids off drugs, alcohol, and other risky behaviors by funding, developing programs and systems of care that last year reached over 30,000 of St. Lucie County children.
And obviously this show is a great place to learn more about them, but we have lots of different ways that you can get information about our programs. Our website is a great one. It's cscslc.org. I'm going to say that again, cscslc.org. And I'm going to tell you ahead of time today that we're going to talk about a lot of resources today. And if there's one that you don't quite catch, numbers or information or whatever, all of the information you can find on our website. So it's very easy to navigate. You'll just look for the program. Sean said already, keeping kids off the street is kind of what we're going to talk about today. But you can find all of that information on our website. We also share a lot of information on our Facebook page, whether it is something fun that our programs have been up to, especially this summer, upcoming events that could involve the whole family, or just fun information that we think is relevant to parents and kids in our community. So Facebook is also a great place to follow us.
And if you're like, Sean, Ashley, I am 30 years and younger, what is Facebook? We are also on, that's a joke there, folks. We are also on Instagram. Just look up St. Lucie CSC. We love our acronyms in the nonprofit world. Yeah. St. Lucie CSC, and you can follow us on Instagram.
That's right.
Which has a little bit different personality than Facebook.
A little bit. It's more like behind the scenes, fun stuff we do in the office.
Facebook is geared towards the people we went to high school with. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding,
right.
Folks.
Right.
But and I will say, if you want to find out the information, as Ashley mentioned, you can go to our website. We have these fancy program guides, which fancy. If you're on the radio show, you can't see, but on the TV show, I'm holding up. We can bring these to your church, your business, your place of worship, and we can even take it up a notch. If you'd like for us to present in a fun but yet informative way, just give us a call. We actually do answer phones at 772-408-1100. Ask for Ashley or myself, and we can come out and talk to you not only about the resources, but kind of like the state of the child in St. Lucie County.
Yeah, what great foreshadowing that was.
I am nothing but down with my segues.
What a segue. So speaking of, we actually have a really fun event coming up that's going to be at the end of September. And not really something that we've done before. We're kind of blending 2 of our events together, I feel like.
COVID made us take a look at our events
yes.
and what we're doing, and we kind of recalibrated.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be a really cool opportunity. One of the fun things that I think you and I get to do is give awards, recognize special people in the community that are really doing work that benefits children and their families. And so that's a big part of this event. But the other part of the event is kind of what you mentioned, like a state of the child, like an update on where we are in our community, how the work that our programs are doing is impacting youth and trends and the data that we pay attention to. So I think it's a really cool opportunity for people to kind of get a perspective, a different perspective, if you will, about what's happening in our programs, in our agencies, but then also get to recognize some of the people that do the really hard work in those programs.
So
as well.
the event is on September 29th. It's a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce of St. Lucie County, I should say the St. Lucie Chamber of Commerce. It's a luncheon. It's from 11:30 to 1, again on September 29th, which I'm 90% sure is a Thursday.
I believe so.
And it's going to be at the Indian River State College Pruitt campus, which is the St. Lucie campus, and their STEM building, which is a phenomenal room if you've
Beautiful
never been
room.
into it. But we hope that you would think about joining us. Registration right now is available
On Facebook.
on Facebook. You can look through it through our Facebook page because we've just become friends on Facebook. And also through the chamber. And like you said, excited to be there. And what's kind of fun about this, and this was really kind of your brainchild, because we used to do this event with our Outstanding Youth Awards.
Yeah.
And so we give out these 5 scholarships a year to kids that volunteer or show leadership in our programs. And then we, reluctantly get the kids up to speak, and then we invite the adults and give out the awards. But as you can imagine, the kids weren't super excited about speaking in front of a bunch of adults that they don't know.
Yeah.
So we started giving the awards out at their program so they can be celebrated by their peers. But we needed a way to give out these awards. So thankfully, for our partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, we found a way to do that.
Yeah, so we are excited about it, and we'll obviously keep talking about it on upcoming shows, radio and TV. But if you want to come join us at that event, registration is open now on Facebook.
And I should say, we led off with this show that if you're watching us on TV because of our partnership with St. Lucie Public Schools and WLX TV, which we're forever grateful for, if you're watching and you're like, this is kind of entertaining, or this might help me sleep at night. Not only is it a radio program, but you can also download the podcast version of this show so that you never miss and are always in the know. Just look up Community Connections with Children's Services Council on all the major podcast platforms.
Yes.
So I don't know if you know, Ashley, school's starting.
I have 3 children.
I felt like I had to ease into that just in case.
I have 3 children. I am acutely aware that school is starting. And actually, we are in the studio on Tuesday.
The day before. Yes.
School starts tomorrow.
It was a little crowded downstairs, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, so no, I am acutely aware that school is starting. I have a divided household, 1 very excited child, 2 mediocre middle schoolers. A little ambivalent about
The younger
middle
one
school.
is the excited one, right?
So excited.
That totally tracks. I get that.
So excited.
So I do not have St. Lucie Public School children.
But you do
because
have a
they're
teacher.
older now and they're in college. But I do have a teacher
You do.
in the household, my wife. So she's excited to go back to school. But before we get to talking about school and what kids do after school, a little foreshadowing again there, folks, let's talk about the end of summer.
Yes.
So we've talked about this in the past. All of our after-school programs turn into summer programs, just like Transformers. And then we fund additional summer offerings in the summer. I believe we had 30 summer camps running
We did.
that were sponsored by the Children's Services Council. And the importance of being sponsored by the Children's Services Council is that, one, that they're all background screened, safety first, but also they are emphasizing literacy and or mathematics in those camps, if not vocational exploration for the teens, because no teen's gonna, let's do math homework. So I'm happy to say we track those outcomes, and as of today, this week anyway, 89% of the kids that participate in our summer camps increased their literacy and or math skills.
Yeah, which is huge.
Which is huge,
Yeah.
which is huge. And we're still getting numbers in. We're hoping to tick above that 80% and get into the 90s.
Yeah, and I just want to make a quick mention. I know, obviously, when we talk about younger kids participating in those summer camps, you mentioned they either focus on academic improvement or literacy or what it is. I had the opportunity for the first time. My daughter participated in the career exploration side of things.
I'm well aware of that.
And Sean got to give her first paycheck this summer.
I got to give her grief at the program. She tried to hide when I said,
That
"Where's
too.
Maya at?" And she shrank.
That too. But I just wanted to say it's such a cool experience to watch your kid kind of grow up through that. Some of the things that she was able to do this summer through the program that she did at Boys and Girls Club, their workforce readiness program, she got to learn about different career opportunities. She got to experience some of them. They worked hard
They
all
totally put
summer
in the
long.
work, yes.
She made more money this summer than I did. So, hey, she bought her own school shoes. So that's a big deal.
I need to clarify that for our listeners. And viewers. She did not make more money than you did during the summer.
She made extra money.
Okay.
But she paid for her own back to school shoes. It was a big deal. So very cool experiences that they were able to have.
And I went to 2 events that were held at the Boys and Girls Club West Side, a couple of chamber events, and all those teens were working that program. They did a good job. And I will say, as you mentioned, I was invited to go out there the first day that they got checks, which was kind of cool.
Very
And
cool.
I gave your daughter love
little bit
and
of
a hard time at the
That's
same
fine.
time. But I did ask a bunch of the kids, because they were getting checks for the first time. I said, what are you doing with this money?
Yeah.
And all of them said they were saving it.
Yep.
They were either saving it for school clothes
Yep.
or saving it to help their families out, which really, I got to be honest with you, it kind of touched me a little bit, because I think if my son got money, he'd be like, family what?
Sorry, Dad.
I already spent it. I'm just kidding. So it was very exciting. And before we talk about after school and what families are doing when their kids, when that school bell rings, the summer provided lots of opportunities. And one of those opportunities kind of came to fruition, or came to a showcase, if you will, just last week. And that's End It summer program, which, if you're not familiar with End It, is an after-school program that we're probably going to mention again. An after-school program primarily designed for middle school and high school students that obviously worked on academics and all that stuff, but really focuses on the arts, particularly performances. So whether it be music, but it's mostly acting and developing scripts and sets and all
Yeah.
that stuff. So we partnered with them this summer to buy the rights for, am I saying that right?
Yeah.
The rights for, I should just stop talking, let you explain this. Buy the rights for High School Musical. And if you're not familiar with what that is, if you have anybody 20 years or younger
They
in your
will know.
household, ask them what High School Musical is.
They'll be aware.
Zac Efron's, start or whatever.
Yeah, it was very popular about 15 years ago.
So they put on High School Musical at the Sunrise Theater last week, and it involved, that was their project in the summer.
Yep.
They learned the script, they partnered for the sets, the singing, the dancing, the lighting, all that, and it was an amazing performance.
I'm so bummed that I missed it. I know that you know how sad I am that I
know.
missed it. But I think one of the really cool things that they also got to do was that they partnered with other summer programs. So they, a big piece of, high school football, which a lot of the storyline focuses on, is the band and the drum line. And they were able to bring in the Future Generations drum line to perform a huge part in the
Yes.
show. And
Kicked
then
it off.
they also enlisted the help of Project Lift to build a lot of the sets. And so I think that's a really cool kind of showcase of the different focuses of some of our after school and summer programs. And it also shows the kids a really good way to work together in our
Right.
community. So I'm really sad. I'm so sad that I missed it, but I know that it was awesome.
I always have a special place for High School Musical because my son, who's a very funny, like dry sense of humor
Very.
comedy, he always asks me, he's like, Dad, you played basketball, right? He's like, yeah. He's like, did you sing and dance on the court? I'm like, no, son, this isn't High School Musical. So anyway, I thought that was funny.
But it would have been cool if you did.
It totally would have been. So anyway, summer is over. I know. You can tell because instead of being 104 degrees, it's now 102 degrees outside. But
Amazing.
summer is over and school is starting. So what we want to have a conversation with today, and I'm not going to lie, folks, our guest was a no-show, so
We're alone.
We're alone. We're going to talk about what your child does when the school bell rings and they're out of school.
Yes, it's a scary time. No, I'm just kidding. It's funny because I feel like my kids have run through. We have experienced COVID in a rough way. My youngest, when we were actually just talking about this last night, my youngest is going into 3rd grade. He has never known a school year without COVID. How crazy is that?
Wow.
Like, it interrupted his kindergarten year. So he's never known a school year without COVID. And that year...
I don't think this year's going to be the year.
No, I don't think so either. But it did kind of impact what happened before and after school. Some of our programs did not operate at full capacity for a couple of years. Some of our programs were not able to be on school campuses for a couple of years. And so it really has made a difference. So this year, for the first time, he will be at a on-site location at his school before and after school for the first time. And he's really excited about it because he knows from experiencing what they do in the mornings before school that after school is way more fun.
Yes, yes,
They
that's
have
true.
way more fun. They get their homework done, which is great. As a working mom, I want him to come home with his homework finished, but they also get to do clubs and activities and all kinds of stuff that, to really maximize those hours after school so that when parents come to pick their kids up, there's kind of you can breathe a sigh of relief. don't have to worry about some of those things.
So anybody that knows Ashley or I, or familiar with Children's Services Council, we always say the 5 priorities. I'll be honest with you, I've already said it twice before coming to the studio to groups. But the priority of keeping kids off the streets, that encompasses our after-school programs. And we say it's keeping kids off the streets because if you have a elementary, middle, or high school student, depending on when they get out of school and when you get out home from work, you know, we don't want children unsupervised, particularly at the younger age, but also at the older age, because kids will find something to do, and sometimes their judgment isn't always the best, respectfully. And so why not have an opportunity for them to go somewhere after school where it's safe, it keeps them off the streets, but it also provides a learning environment, a positive social environment, where they can grow as a student and a young adult or child.
And if you listened to our show last week, you would also know that the staff in those after-school programs is highly trained to ensure that they've got good relationship building happening with those kids, which really sometimes is a big part of what they need to decompress from their school day. So
I've got so many thoughts running through my mind. So first of all, for those people who are like Sean, Ashley, after-school programs, we get it. Why they're so important, and I'm just going to go from a public safety standpoint, and I don't mean to get kind of negative here, but from a public safety. If you talk to law enforcement will tell you that juvenile crime peaks between the hours of 2 and 7. Now, I want everybody who's watching, think about when school gets out and when working parents get home. That's that space between 2 and 7 p.m. So we make available programs. It's our largest category that we fund, locations across the county where kids can go at relatively almost no cost, or considerably cheaper than you could on the private market. But as you mentioned, Ashley, when a child goes to an after-school program that's supported by the Children's Services Council, we know a couple things that's going to happen. One, they're going to work on their homework. You know, and to your point, because you know, my children. My daughter did not go to an after-school program. And I can't tell you, I don't want to say battles, that sounds negative, but how many struggles and nights of crying and trying to get homework done, and honestly, just getting them to get it done. And then you know, if they're like, I don't understand, and you see a half page of notes and it's an algebra problem, you're like, oh boy. But so at all of our after-school programs, they work on their homework. So they have tutors there. They have a lot of them have teachers there to work on that child with the homework. So when you come pick that child up, you don't have as much stress, and you can concentrate on quality time with your child. Not that doing homework isn't quality time, but you understand what I'm saying. But also, they work on the pro-social involvement. So, and I say all this because all of our after-school programs have common outcomes. And those common outcomes, and this is what they work to make sure that all the kids attending do. Maintain or improve their academics. No delinquency or school discipline referrals. So they're working on making sure that, you know,
making good choices.
Thank you. Making good choices. And third, that they're attending school, because you can't be successful in school unless you're actually in school. But all of our programs work on that, and they have a very high success rate, and they're spread throughout the entire county.
Yeah, and I would just say, you know, we're kind of talking globally about them. We have individual programs in our cadre, if you will. There's, I want to say 17 of our annually funded programs. But each of them, we talked about End It as being one of the ones that has like a specific focus for the performing arts. But we also have other programs that focus on individual things. So I actually saw on Facebook, believe it or not, the ARC of St. Lucie County is advertising. They've got openings in their after-school program, and they specifically target children that have an IEP. So if that happens to be your child and you're looking for a safe place for them, that's an opportunity for you. We have other programs that target kids with emotional and behavioral disorders. So that could be a place for your child. So there are some specific, individualized, if you will, kind of hooks, or I don't know, like factors involved in some of our programs. So if there is something that your child is looking for like that specific, look through our list. I would just encourage you to take a look at the website, look through the list. You're welcome to call our office and ask questions if maybe you don't know which one is the right fit. But I promise there's something for everyone. And to Sean's point, they're located throughout the community as well. So whether you need something close to home or close to school or close to work, we can pretty much check all of those boxes with our programs.
So I don't have my glasses on, but I did. I
Did you
think I
count?
counted 19 locations.
Okay, that sounds right.
19 locations. And the other important part is, if you were, and you know this because and I've done it before a while back, if you go to a private pay, and I'm not knocking private pay, but if you go to private pay, before and after school care, that's what, $60, $70, $80 a week?
Easily.
Easily. Most of these are much less expensive because one of our focuses when we look at after school care is we want to remove obstacles for families. Sometimes there might be a small fee because they want some parental buy-in, because you don't value something as much that you get for free as
Yep.
if you had to pay a little bit for it. So there might be a little bit of buy-in, but it's accessible and they work with all families in regards to the economics of that household.
Yep.
And the other thing that we didn't talk about is we talked about all this technical stuff, but they actually have fun there.
They do.
We need to emphasize that, right? They actually have fun in these after-school programs.
They do. And I would encourage you to, if there's one that maybe you're considering for your child, call them, take a tour, tell them that you're interested. They're really good about offering those opportunities to parents. You can also talk to them about if there are any fees incurred. A lot of times, as Sean mentioned, there might be a registration fee at the beginning to help pay for some materials. Some of them may have a transportation fee if they're picking your child up from school or bringing them home. So it does vary between the programs, but there really is something for everyone, and a lot of really fun things that the kids get to do. And again, I want to point out that those relationships that they get to build. There are some amazing people that work in these programs that Sean and I have the privilege of knowing, but they work really hard to make sure that the kids are safe and cared for and happy before you come to pick them up. And so that's really important.
A little secret sauce to what makes a program effective. It doesn't really, the programming, you got to attract the child and make sure that they stay there. And it's got to be entertaining and educational. But the secret sauce to any program, and you just mentioned it, is the relationship that child builds with the adult. The more positive adult relationships a child has, their trajectory for success is higher.
Yeah.
So we hopefully, as a parent or grandparent, you have that relationship. But an after-school program becomes almost like a second family a lot of times to these kids, because think about it, they spend all day in school, and then they spend from 2 to 6 p.m. with somebody 5 days a week. That's 20 hours a week. They bond, the staff gets to know the kids, they get to understand what's bothering them, when they're in a good mood, bad mood, but more importantly, it becomes that extension of you of the parent with that staff. So that's why it's so important.
And actually what you just said is a good reminder. If you didn't get to see our show or listen to our show from last week, we had a really good conversation with Chris White from Tykes and Teens, who actually works with the staff in all of these after-school programs to train the staff on trauma-informed care, which we kind of dabbled a little bit in last week, but talking to them about what are some things that we need to be paying attention to. If a child comes in and is really upset one day, like how do I handle that as a staff person? And so Chris and her team work with all of our after-school programs on making sure that that is happening and that those staff can identify some of those things and know how to handle them and maybe have that conversation with the parent. But I think it's really made an impact on the whole child well-being of the kids in these programs.
So again, as Ashley mentioned, if you don't know what your child is doing when school's out, you're like farther away than normal.
I know.
If you don't know what your child is doing when school gets out, and you as a working parent, let's say get home at 6 p.m. and your child gets out at 3 o'clock, go to our website, cscslc.org, or call us at 408, don't call ourselves that often, 772-408-1100. We can show you where to find that information. You can call the site that you're interested in, and I'm glad you pointed it out. Make sure that you take a tour of that facility and bring your child with them.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them, they're spread throughout the county, but a lot of them are within reach of each other, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
So something might not really appeal to your child there, but a couple miles away there might be another place that your child might be interested.
Yeah, and I don't think that we can understate the fact that the purpose of us supporting and developing these programs is to make sure that the cost is low for you. And so if that is a concern, again, call us, talk to us about it. We'll have a conversation with you about what might be the best fit. But also, our programs are also acutely aware of the situation that our parents are in our community. And so they have options too. And so don't overlook sending your child to an after-school program because you're afraid of something like that. I would hate for your kid to not have an experience because that was something that you were worried about. Please reach out to them, reach out to us, and we'll see what we can figure out.
Cost and quality, that's
Yes,
what we emphasize.
cost and quality.
So real quick, we got a couple minutes left. I'm not going to go through all of these because we already said we had 19, but obviously.
And you can't see them.
And I can't see them. I know most of them. I already have them memorized. But Boys and Girls Club obviously is throughout the entire community. We support the clubhouses. What that means is not the school-based ones, but the clubhouses that are spread. I believe there's 6 or 7 locations throughout the county, and I think it only costs $25 a year.
I think that's right. I do think, and this is a conversation that we're having within our programs, but some of them are asking for help with the transportation costs, which, you know, given gas and life
obviously.
at the moment. But I think it's a $25 registration fee and then possibly some transportation.
And then I just going to mention a couple we already mentioned End It, and I will emphasize, if you're like Sean, End It sounded fascinating, but my child is kind of shy and introverted.
Not for long.
Not for long, because it's very much a family atmosphere, but there are roles for everybody. So you may think, oh, performance, my son would never get in front of people at the sunrise. Well, there's people that work on the sets. There's people that clear the sets.
And the cameras.
And the cameras and the lights. So keep that in mind, and particularly for middle or high school students. I also want to mention Lindsay School of the Arts, because we're talking about arts. They offer dance, photography, music,
guitar,
all that
drawing.
stuff. That is an after-school program, and Future Generations, where they actually learn musical instruments.
There's so many.
So many of them, yeah. Alpi, Frontline.
There's so many. And again, each one of them kind of has their own special thing. So if you're having a difficult time deciding or you can't figure out what might be the best thing, please call us. We'll help you. Right.
And then the last thing that we want to talk about, and I'm going to let you look for the phone number. The last thing that I want to talk about, or we want to talk about, we talked about after-school programs. Hopefully we've emphasized the importance of after-school programs and that you need to consider enrolling your child in one and consider our programs because of the quality and the cost. But the other thing that we want to talk about is, and you mentioned that, you know, your son hasn't been through a year without COVID at school, right? And so that brings up health issues, right? And we help support the school nurses that are in the schools. But another thing that we do, if your child does not have health insurance, and health insurance is important for immunizations, and trust me, kids run into walls, sometimes they don't always bounce back, sometimes they break something, you need to have a doctor, and that starts with health insurance. If you do not have health insurance for your child, I should say, there's something called Healthy Kids. It is a subsidized child health insurance. It's actually federal through the state. We help fund the navigators to help families get enrolled. Give them a call, because chances are it's cheaper than what you're already paying now, or you might get the subsidized version and there's no deductibles.
Correct. So and that number is 772-464-9617.
So Ashley, we've come to the end of the show with no guest.
We did.
But yet we covered the time and we covered the topic. So we want to thank you for tuning in and listening. We're grateful for our partnership with WLX TV, but it's also, if you're watching us on TV, a weekly radio program every Sunday on 104.5 The Flame at 10 a.m. And if you're like, Sean, I'm not getting up that early, or I'm at church at that time, you can download the podcast version of the show. Just look up Children's Services Council's, just look up Community Connections with Children's Services Council on your podcast app, including even Apple. We're fancy like that.
Always Apple.
And a reminder, folks, thank you for tuning in and listening, that it's our children, our community, our future. Now more than ever, folks, we're all in this together. We'll see you next time.